All right, guys, we'll wrap up tonight in college football. There was a surprising report this week, born off of a lawsuit directed at the Big Ten regarding their season postponement. It turns out there was, in fact, a vote to cancel the season, and it shook out 11-3, with Ohio State, Iowa, and Nebraska dissenting on the decision. In the weeks following that vote, amid the continuations by the SEC, ACC, and Big 12, significant pressure has been put on the conference by fans, coaches, players, and even now President Trump to get the decision overturned. So far, the Big Ten hasn't caved, but there have been musings of a possible season start in Thanksgiving. With some games already played over the weekend and more coming this week, it seems like the pressure is only going to grow in the Big Ten and Pac 12 to get a season going. So, Drink, sounds like the winds of change are blowing through the conference. Think they're going to reverse course?
Absolutely. Absolutely, baby. I've been saying this from the start. Here's the deal. The Pac-12, as gotta give Jay his credit on here. The Pac-12, once they laid in the grave, they stayed there. Matter of fact, we've been changing the dirt out. But the Big Ten, I done said this. I was very surprised that the Big Ten did this. I'm very surprised that that the Big Ten has not reactivated and came back to the conversation. I'm very surprised. When they decided to cancel the season, that's why everybody was so thrown back. Like, really, the Big Ten? The Big Ten. Yeah, when the Pac-12 did it, well, I guess we got more surfing to do. They open the malls. Let's enjoy the beach. You know what I'm saying? Let's get some tans. But nobody cared. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Big Ten was a deal. So, me personally, yeah. Here's for me. I wish I was a fly on the wall because I got to see these meetings because every day is something new. They getting outrageous over there in the Big Ten conference. First, it was only 2 teams. I thought that was a little shaky because I'm like, Nebraska and Iowa was the 2 teams that was in the front of the line saying they want to play. Really? Kirk Ferentz been getting stimulus checks for the last 10 years. Why he in the rush to play? He been out here sandbagging it for years. And then Nebraska, I mean, they've been overhyped because of their coach. He come UCF or Scott Frost. UCF, oh yeah, he gonna come and bring Nebraska back, and we still waiting on the comeback. So you gonna tell me these were the 2 teams that were they just wanted to play so bad. So then we get the new information. Well, it was 3 teams. Oh, I wonder who that 3rd team was. Oh, it was Ohio State. If you don't say, oh, here come the lawsuit. Oh yeah, parents going crazy. We watching, we doing it all. Here's the deal. Another thing that hurts the Big Ten argument for not playing is what happened Friday. All right, Friday. For those that don't know, we had 2 of these guys playing. Little treat or treat. A little cupcake. Playing on Friday, and the end result is this: like, it's 2 teams that a very small percentage of people care about, but the end result was they played a game, normal football game. ESPN broadcasted. They practiced social distancing. We seen the 5 fans in the stands. All right, some of them had on masks. Some of them just used their hand because we didn't care. But they played the game. The game was over. They got tested after the game, and they had 0 positive COVID tests between both teams. So this game was played in Montgomery, Alabama. I happen to know they played close to a county that got a significant amount of positive tests here recently. So if they was able to go and play this game, get tested, come back fine, I think that was a positive step forward for college football. I also think now that puts the Big Ten in a situation now. Because you can't say, oh, we so scared of COVID. We just seen the game with nobody. Not to say, okay, the next game, half of the people there couldn't catch COVID. Yeah, they could. I'm not saying that. But they didn't. So I can only go with the facts. And the facts is nobody had COVID once they got done playing. And they played a normal football game. Why can't we get this together? If the FCS conference can get it together, I got to believe the FBS conference got to be able to get it together. So, yes, I do think we'll see football. Now, the question is, from the Big Ten, when they do come back to the table, When do they come back to the table? What is their timeline compared to the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12? That is the question. Can we get the timeline somewhat parallel for it all to make sense to tie it in at the end? If the college football committee come out and say, we're not playing a championship, all right then, let's start this thing up whenever you want to. We're not going to play a championship. You need to go ahead and get this ball rolling. So the players that you do have that's draft eligible or that's trying to up their stock can finally get some tape, and let's make this happen. But I thought this was ludicrous from the start that the Big Ten postponed their season, the spring, because I just didn't understand it. And I'm glad they come back to their senses. If the president had something to do with it, hey, by all means, go ahead. He knew he didn't have to call the SEC because he knew what time it was. You know what I'm saying? He had to come bother the SEC and the ACC. So he made that phone call to the Big Ten. I do think they come back. I hope they come back. And look, like I said, those two teams that played Friday has shown us the way. All right.
What a way to wrap it up. Fantastic. I have no inclination on whether the Big Ten will reverse course, but I know they should reverse course. I can tell you that much. And I would say, and back to the vote, yeah, we voted. It was 12-2. Now it's 11-3. I mean, do we even believe that? I mean, are we really think about it? Like Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin, did they really say no? We don't want to play football. And if they did, we know it wasn't the actual football people who said that they didn't want to play. It was these high-ranking administrators, presidents, deans. I don't know what you want to call them. But they, you know what? I suspect what happened was they got their old medical advice. They had the little heart issue thing that was bottom line was they don't want to be liable for anything that happens. But it's just interesting that when you see the three other conferences that matter, the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC, you don't think they're all getting medical advice too? Can we get the Big 10 medical advisors with these other three conferences to see if we can kind of hash out the concerns that the Big 10 is having, and have these other professionals who I assume are they're just not yes men for these conferences. They're taking the COVID concerns seriously, but it's all about we talked about this before. It's all about risk. You're not getting the risk down to zero, but based on the demographics that we're talking about, who are actually playing this game, which is dangerous, by the way, already inherently, this is something that can absolutely happen. We do have a sliver of evidence based on the cupcake parade that went through Friday. I wouldn't read a whole lot into that. I think, it's not like the Big Ten's going like, oh look, what was it, the Austin Pissants or whoever it was, they came out and played the whatever other team, the Water Hoses. Yeah, they did the thing, and it's okay with the 5 fans in the stands. Yeah. So that was good. But I will tell you this: if the other three conferences actually get into the swing of things, they start playing games, and we have a couple weeks where we have no or very limited issues, that would just scream to the Big Ten, hey, get it started. Let's go. And I would tell you, this whole Thanksgiving thing, if the Big Ten wants to pussyfoot around and wait around to Thanksgiving to start the season, the College Football Playoff Committee should say, oh, you want to wait that long? No, forget about you. We'll see you next season. We'll just go with these three conferences. And you can't hold up the whole process. Think about it. They played a championship game in January, right? If the Big Ten starts that season in November, they're not going to be done until, late February? It isn't right to make these other three conferences wait around to see if the Big Ten even has a team that's even worthy to be considered for the playoff. You can't do that.
Wait. So let me get this right. Now I got a question for you. So you telling me right now that the Big Ten is planning on going head to head with the NFL for the eyeballs on Thanksgiving?
Well, based on what we laid out right now, based on what we think they have right now, they're thinking about Thanksgiving. What I'm saying is that's ridiculous. You can't do that unless they can come. The other conferences in the Big Ten can come to a compromise where they start somewhere on the same page. Maybe they say, okay, we want to start in September or we want to start in November. How about maybe we do October or something? That you got to start around the same time, or else the timeline isn't going to make sense for the college football playoff. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, they've got a little bit of time because we know the SEC is not kicking off their schedule until later in September. The ACC is going to get started in about 2 weeks. I think it's about when the Big 12 is too. So if there was a couple weeks, you have a couple weeks to play with, especially only playing a 10-game schedule, interconference schedule. If you wanted to kind of push it and go 10 straight weekends without a bye week, you might could get it to where the other conferences wrap up a week or two ahead of time, and then there's like a break, and then we get a national championship or some sort of playoff. But right now we don't know what that's going to look like, so we'll see. And some of the things you can look at. So of course we had our game of the weekend where tested before they got on the buses, they did the thing, and that's great. But the NFL operates in somewhat of a similar manner, and they don't have anyone on the COVID reserve right now. There's not a single NFL player that's had it, and this is through training camp. I mean, we're done. We got about 10 days until the season starts here. And the NFL's had great success. Now, I'm not saying every team in college can be ran as close to the NFL, but, some of these Power 5 schools, they've got money coming out of every orifice. They can make something happen. And the Big Ten, I think, is really feeling a shock, a pushback because of how early they made this decision. I mean, they made the decision weeks ago. And since then, we haven't heard of any major outbreaks. We haven't heard of, some team getting 40 people getting COVID. And the picture from a national standpoint doesn't look miles better, but a lot of states that were hotbeds, such as Florida, it's coming down significantly, like to a great degree from what it was even a few weeks ago. And the CDC just released a rework of the numbers, and 94% of people who had no underlying conditions, the deaths, are wildly stacked in favor of older people, 90% over 55, and 94% had pre-existing conditions on top of COVID. So there's a lot of interpretation there. I'm not trying to say, don't put on the doctor hat and go, well, that means that they only have X percent. But what it means is guys in this age range are so unlikely to even have symptoms from COVID, much less have serious complications. And the myocarditis reports, which is the heart condition related to COVID, there's been some speculation and doubt put on that since then. And some of these universities, this is what cracks me up, universities like Michigan, who are big medical research universities, are leading the way in this research. And this is their own schools are leading the way in vaccine research and research into COVID effects. And you're telling me after all this information you have that your league still decided you couldn't play, but these other three decided they could? I mean, there's something doesn't jive here. And I don't know. I just think about this in a couple weeks. Imagine LSU and Auburn, or Notre Dame and Clemson, or the Red River rivalry. Imagine sitting on your couch in the Big Ten watching these games. The pressure is going to be immense. They're going to play. Pac-12, I don't know. No one seems to care, so whatever. But the Big Ten is going to have an immense pressure to get started. And the question really becomes, how fast can they get restarted? Well, we know these guys are still on campus. They haven't all been sent home. So, they're still floating around. I mean, can you get this started at the end of September? I mean, that works. We get an October kickoff in the Big Ten. We could wait a week or two, and we could have a national championship maybe in the second or third week of January. There's some wiggle room here to be had, especially with these shorter schedules, but it's got to start soon. You can't. If you wait till Thanksgiving, like you said, forget about it. Y'all are out. We're having a 3 conference playoff and whatever, and y'all can play an empty Rose Bowl with the Pac-12 in the dead of winter in February. Have fun, I guess. I guess that's what we're going to have to do, because that's all you're going to have if you wait that long. So the question I think now is not become, are they going to play? It's how fast can they get back to playing?